Afternoon, everyone. I wasn't planning on going live today, uh, but this came across. I basically got notification of this, and I wanted to go live about it because I think it's something that we need to go live about, but I wasn't planning on going live. But I'm here, so let's get into it. Right, Sarah? Hi, Sarah, Margie Jones, Christy Andrews. Yes, yes, it is true. It is all over the news. Scott Peterson's death penalty has been overturned by the California Supreme Court. Yes. Hey, Charlie, girl says. Angel Ruth, Galloway girl, misdemeanor, Pixie, Puss in Boots, Raven. Hi, everybody. I'm glad you guys are all here. I'll give it a few minutes before we get into it, but I was shocked when I got the info that it was overturned. Now, nobody panic. They upheld his conviction though for killing Lacey and Connor. So they upheld that, the conviction of it. But as far as when they went into the penalty stage, that is why the death penalty has been overturned. So basically what they're saying is the California Supreme Court on Monday overturned the 2005 death sentence for Scott Peterson in the slaying of his pregnant wife, but said prosecutors may try again for the same sentence if they wish in this high-profile case. So they can go for the death penalty again. They have not said whether they're going to or not, but they do have that option to be able to go for a death penalty again. So it upheld his 2004 murder conviction in the killing of Lacey Peterson, who was 8 months pregnant with their unborn son, Connor. Investigators said that on Christmas Eve 2002, Peterson's dumped the bodies from his fishing boat into the San Francisco Bay, where they surfaced months later. We all know that, how horrible it is. My husband said they made a law in 2006 that makes it hard to extradite the 900 been sentenced to death and 13 executed by the state since 1978. Wow. Good morning, Tally. Afternoon, Tally girl. Truth, Leah. Everybody that's come in since I've been reading and I didn't catch you, welcome. Glad to see you guys all here. Glad to see you all here. So, let's see. Peterson contends his trial was flawed for multiple reasons, beginning with the unusual amount of the pretrial publicity that surrounded the case, the court said. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. Give me 1 second. Sorry, the kid came out. Sorry, but I'm back. So let me get back to where I was. Amount of pretrial publicity that surrounded the case. The court said, "We have rejected Peterson's claim that he received an unfair trial as to the guilt and thus affirm his conviction for murder." So they're not changing that. But the justice said the trial judge made a series of clear and significant errors in jury selection that, under long-standing United States Supreme Court, undermined Peterson's right to an impartial jury at the penalty phase. It agreed with his argument that potential jurors were improperly dismissed from the jury pool after saying they personally disagree with the death penalty but would be willing to follow the law and impose it. While the court may dismiss a juror as an unqualified to sit on a capital case if the juror's views on capital punishment would impair his or her ability to follow the law, a juror may not be dismissed merely because he or she has expressed opposition to the death penalty as a general matter. So, basically what they are saying, hey little Kelly. So, but basically what why they overturned it is because during the death penalty phase, they feel like he did not get proper jurors because some jurors didn't agree with the death penalty but agreed to follow the law. From what it sounds like they got rid of them. They only kept the jurors that said, "We agree with the death penalty, whether it's the law or not, we agree, and that's the way we're going to keep it." So, from what it sounds like is that he's saying that it was impartial. Now, mind you, Scott's also trying to say it's because of all the publicity he had on this case. But everybody knows they even moved this case, many miles away. So they don't agree with him there. They threw that part out. But the Supreme Court is saying that he didn't get the right jury that he should have. So let me see. Peterson, who is now 47, contended on an appeal that he couldn't get a fair trial because of the massive publicity that followed. Although the proceedings were moved nearly 90 miles away from his Central Valley home of Modesto to south of San Francisco. Let's see, what else? Peterson was convicted, we already know that, of first-degree murder and the death of his wife. Investigators chased nearly 10,000 tips. I'm trying to see, because they're really talking about stuff we already know. He also contended on the appeal that the trial court erred in deciding whether jurors in the defense were properly allowed to test whether Peterson's new boat would likely have capsized if he dumped the weighted bodies over the side. Now and then it ends. Well, that's not right. Why did it end? He also contended on an appeal that the trial court erred in deciding whether the jurors in the defense were properly allowed to test whether Peterson's new boat would likely have capsized if he dumped the weighted bodies over the side. Wow. I don't think that really matters, in my opinion. But I think if you were on death row, I think you would use anything and everything to try to get out. But either way, I mean, everybody's finding this like either way, I feel like they're not overturning his conviction. So either way, he's still going to either be in prison for the rest of his life, or he will get the death penalty again. So I know everybody's kind of freaking out, thinking, oh no, it's overturned. That means that he could be found not guilty and get out. No, they are upholding his conviction. So regardless, no matter how this turns out, it's either going to be he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, or he's going to get the death penalty again. In my opinion, by seeing Sarah's thing and knowing that a lot of people aren't getting executed, a lot of people's death sentences are being overturned to life in prison, I have a feeling he will probably get life. Now, I'm curious, could they give him life with the possibility of parole? Now, that would be interesting. Will that be part of it? Will there be a option of parole in that? Or is it straight from death penalty or life? Like, because they're upholding his conviction? I don't know how California law works. It would be something I want to look into, but I'm wondering if it can be life without parole or death, or is he going to have that option to have parole? I'm okay with him sitting the rest of his life. Death penalty is an easy way out for him. I agree, Amanda T. Because a lot of people end up dying of natural causes anyways, and they're on death row. You know, a lot of people do. It's not as easy to, set up death penalty now like it was back in the old days. That's why it seems like everybody's kind of going away from the death penalty, and they're just giving them life. Because I know there was a lot of people that were on death row, because I watch all those shows. There was one called Death Row, Life Under Death Row or something, and like majority of them ended up getting their death row overturned, and they ended up spending life in prison instead. He doesn't deserve luxuries of general pop. He deserves to stew segregated by himself. I agree with that too, Sarah. Because if he does get life, that's right, he is going to be back. He'll be in general pop. But I have to say, when I was watching that Death Row show, they had TVs, they had video games. Yeah, they were alone. They were in their cell majority of the day. There was one death row that was able to have a cat, and you know how they allow inmates to home animals before they can get adopted and stuff. They were even on death row, and they were allowed to have cats. They were allowed to have food. So death row just doesn't seem as hard as it used to be. You know, back in the day, when you were on death row, you were alone in a cell. You had those privileges. But now they've got way more privileges on death row than they ever did. Yeah, I think they've got more privileges on death row than they do in general pop, for sure. I agree, Sweet Crazy. It blows my mind to watch those shows. Like, there was this guy sitting there playing a video game. They get computer time. They get to go out and work. They get to leave. And there was one guy, he was a barber. And he's on death row. And he gets to leave his cell every day to go to work as a barber. And work and then come back to his jail cell, and he's on death row. I'll have to I wish I could remember the show. It's on Netflix. It's something Death Row. If you look up on Netflix, just put Death Row in there, it will come up. And this is in, I believe, in Texas, was where they were videoing. It is crazy because people think that these, people are on death row that, they're at the bottom of the bucket and they don't get nothing. They get a lot more privileges than they ever did. Oh, you're welcome, Pixie. Thank you. I'm glad I could cover it for you guys. I wanted to get it out there because I know for me, and I'm sure for a lot of you, I was glued to the TV about this Scott Peterson case. I wasn't on YouTube at that time, but I was highly in everything, reading everything and anything about Scott Peterson and his wife. It was a horrible case. Oh, hold on. My husband just pulled in. Sorry. Give me a second because my dogs are going to go nuts. Give me 1 second. And all right. All right, guys, I'm back. Sorry. That's the one where they had inmates training animals, video games, etc. Yes, Margie Jones. There was a guy that worked in the barber shop. There was another guy on death row that had a cat. There, all of them had TVs and everything. I was pregnant at the beauty salon when the news broke. Her torso and Connor were found. Yeah, I watched the whole trial. It was insane. That was way back when court TV was a thing. Yes, Mandolin. Jenna, I found it. Can I share the link here? Yes, you can, Galloway. I just found it really interesting because my views on death row, I just assumed they wouldn't have the privileges they do. So I was really shocked to watch the death row, and they had the same amount of privileges as General Pop did. They get to come out of their cells. They don't come out together. They all come out. Like, that's the one thing. When you're on death row, are you by yourself? You are. You are by yourself. You don't get to come out with anybody else. You don't get to shower with anybody else. You don't get to eat with anybody else. They let them out individually. They do. But as far as what they're allowed to do, it was just like being in General Pop. So, to me, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, what's the difference? Because people that are on death row are not being executed in a timely fashion. Like I said, majority of them die of natural causes before they're even remotely up for lethal injection. And they're getting the same treatment as General Pop. So why even have death row? Why don't you just put everybody to life? That's just my opinion. It would be different because I know everybody feels differently. I believe in the death penalty. I do. I think there's certain people that deserve the death penalty. Absolutely. But I think that it should move a lot more efficiently than it does. That's just my opinion. I think it should move much more efficiently. I don't think that they should be able to sit on death row. The show I was watching, I think there was one guy that's been on death row 20 years, 26 years, if I remember correctly. That's way too long to be sitting on death row, if you ask me. I don't know if anybody else has any other opinions about that. I mean, anybody else can come up and speak on your thoughts, but I just was actually shocked to see that they were able to still work. Like, I thought that if you're on death row, you shouldn't be able to work. You shouldn't be able to have a TV. You shouldn't be able to have a video game. You shouldn't be able to have a cat to care for in that companionship. That's just my opinion. And I know everybody else has their opinions, and I know, there might be somebody out here with a family member on death row. And I'm sorry for that. But it's just my opinion. Yeah, I'll drop the link, Truth. And this is kind of like a touchy it can be caused for a touchy subject, but like I said, I'm just saying my opinion. I couldn't agree more. Why say death if they're just going to sit there for 80 years? I agree, Mandy. And if anybody hasn't subbed to Mandy Mix Media Queen, she is an awesome channel. She does a lot of crafting. She does absolutely no drama. She does not like drama. But she does paranormal and she does crafting. So if you guys have not subbed to her channel, please sub to her channel. Hey, Tracy.
Hey, I know the death penalty is like a really touchy subject.
Oh, hold on. I got to put my headset in. I always forget. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, now I can hear you. I always say I can't hear somebody and I forget I don't have my headset in. Go ahead.
Well, like I said, I know the death penalty is like, and I'm not reading chat. I can't. I find it too hard to read chat when I'm on my phone. But I know the death penalty is a really touchy subject.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be all about it too. I was like, some mother fricker hurt my family. I want him dead.
Yep.
But then I realized how many innocent people are sitting on death row.
That's true too.
Take the case of Cameron Willingham out of Texas. They put that man to death and then basically said, oops.
Oops. Yep, they did.
Here's my thing about the death penalty. Do I believe there's people out there that are just monsters and they can't be rehabilitated? Yes, I do. I really honestly do. I mean, you've got the Ted Bundys. You've got, the San Francisco killer that was just caught, which he's going to die soon anyways. Frick, 74 years old or whatever, whatever he was called. You know what I'm talking about.
Right. Yes.
And D'Angelo, whatever, Joseph D'Angelo.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's why I'm saying why should we even have a death penalty? That's what I'm saying, because like you said, there are people on death row that are innocent, and maybe if he got life, they wouldn't realize that they did an oops and he still could get out, but instead, because they sit there so long anyways,
right? Well, some do, some don't. I mean, because there's a lot of death row inmates who basically just go through their appeals really quickly, and they might only make it 8, 9, 10 years on death row, while others, I mean, look at Darlie Routier. She's been sitting there for 23 years.
Yeah.
There's a reason Texas hasn't killed her yet. Because Texas, if anybody's going to kill you, it's going to be Texas.
Now, what is your thoughts on why do you think they haven't? Because they don't know for sure that she's innocent, or do you think they keep her alive because of the profile that she got on the case?
Well, first of all, she's still in her appeals. Her appeals went to the state. The state called it a convoluted case, or it went to the federal level. Once you get to the federal level, it moves really fast. But her appeals, she exhausted her state appeals. She went to the federal level. Federal sent it back to state, called it a convoluted case. So finally, she found some judges that were a judge that was willing to retest some evidence and look at some things. Now, here you have a woman who has a transcript, which is supposed to be verbatim, okay? Because those transcripts are used later down the road for your appeals.
Right.
She had over 33,000 errors made in her transcripts. There is nothing physically tying her to killing her boys.
Correct.
You know,
right. But
so
she can't get her death penalty overturned. But Scott Peterson, they're just saying it's because of the jury, and he gets his death penalty overturned. It's crazy to me, like,
with Scott, he just got his sentencing overturned, and that's okay.
yeah,
Because they're just
right,
going to go back and they're going to resentence him, and he's either going to
right,
get life without or he's going to get the death penalty again.
right.
Boom.
That's it. Right. That's why I was making that very clear. It's not like he's getting a whole new trial and he can be found not guilty. He is still guilty. He will either get life or he will get the death penalty all over again. I'm buying you a new lighter, girlfriend.
I
I'm
know,
telling
man.
you.
I just sent somebody and asked them to give me a new lighter. But like I said, here's my thing. I think the statistics are 1 out of 4 sitting on death row are innocent. 1 out of 4.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my thing about the death penalty. Unless you have, and I don't care about reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt is for conviction, and no, it's not shadow of a doubt. But it has to be beyond reasonable doubt for conviction, for convicting somebody. I don't think that should be used in the sentencing phase. I don't think that should be used as to determine whether someone goes to death row or not.
Right.
Unless you have absolute, I don't care. You're either going to have to show it to me on video. The person's going to have to absolutely confess. It's going to have to be a non-coerced confession. Other than that, taking one life, the government taking one life that shouldn't have been taken, one innocent life, because it's bad enough that you get people, they're released from prison every single day where they're found innocent. Some of these people spent 40-something years in prison. How do we give them back 40 years?
Yeah.
We definitely need justice reform in this country.
Yes, I agree. I definitely agree with that. What I don't agree with, that's my biggest problem. I think on death row, I don't understand why they get so many things allowed to them. It's just like they're in general pop. They get everything that a general pop person should get.
Depends. That really depends on what row you're on, what prison you're in. Because, like I said, I'm very close to the Darlie Routier case. Darlie's not allowed phone calls. She doesn't have a television in her cell. So, it's more like a day room or whatever. She's not allowed, sometimes they can't even get greeting cards. They're not allowed greeting cards. They're bored in there. They're not allowed adult coloring books or stickers or anything like that. So it really depends on what row you're on. Texas is pretty tough row.
Right.
She has been allowed phone calls recently because her situation is now everything's being retested. She's the only thing holding up everything right now for Darlie is COVID. But a lot of rows are not easy. I mean, you're singled out. Here's what it comes down to. Just because you get sent to death row doesn't mean you're not a human being. A lot of people get sent to death row for crimes that they did, maybe say under the influence of drugs. Does that change the fact that they took a life or something like that? No, it doesn't. Do they deserve to be punished? Absolutely. But our jails, our prisons were built under the understanding of rehabilitation. Now, I
Yes.
understand that there's a lot of people out there that just can't be rehabilitated. I get it. There are monsters that walk among us. I get that. But one innocent life, or one person sitting on death row or in prison for 40 plus years that finally gets released because somebody finally took a look at their case, because it's all about money anyways. If Scott Peterson was a poor man, did I lose Jenna? Am I now the star of the show? If Scott Peters, where is Jenna? Can y'all still hear me?
StreamYard's kicked me out of my own stream.
I know it does that shit to me. I end up in the chat. But
Yeah. I
I was
just
like,
got it.
wow, am I the star of the show now?
Yeah,
But
I guess so. All of a sudden, I was gone. I'm like, where did I go? And I'm in the chat. I'm like, how did I get here? I'm not even on the thing. That was weird. Go ahead. Sorry.
it's just my opinion, and I don't mean to take over your panel, but
No, you're
it's
not. I
it's
love
just
that.
it's
It's
just my
a
opinion that if one innocent life is taken, there is no takebacks. That is a permanent solution. You know, so to me, and I used to be all death penalty. Yes, yes. Eye for an eye. Blah blah blah. And I still feel like if somebody killed one of my family members, I probably would want to kill him myself. I might not even wait for the state to do it. But when I saw how many innocent people, when I really started, and not just Darlie Routier, and yes, I do believe Darlie Routier is innocent, and we can argue until the cows come home. I don't
yeah.
care. A
I,
lot of people
I
have
I have to say I'm on you with you on that. I've looked into the Darlie Routier case. I watched the Darlie Routier case. I don't think there's enough evidence that she should be on death row, and I don't truly believe she killed her children. I
I
just
don't
don't.
either.
I
I don't
just don't, and that's my opinion.
I just got a hold of her regression therapy results the other day. I'd never seen them. I've been studying this case for over 10 years. I'll never forget when I first saw it come across the news. It was like Dan Rather. And he's like, Darlie Routier of Texas has been convicted, sentenced to death. But there's just so much wrong with Darlie's case. And we could talk about that for days.
You're
But
right.
back to the fact that the death penalty, you
Mhm.
can't take that back. So unless there is just absolutely no way of getting around the fact that this person may or may not have done this crime, then sentence them to life in prison without parole.
Right.
It
And
co-
that's but
it
see in my
costs
aspect,
more. It
in my
costs more
opinion,
to kill somebody.
right. But in my opinion, I think Scott Peterson is definitely guilty. I think he absolutely killed his wife and went to the harbor and dumped her in. I think that they got it right. In my opinion, I think they got it right with him.
I do too. And what sealed the deal for me for Scott was
It's him
the
lying about the going golfing, but he was really in the harbor. Is
well,
that's one of the things.
and Amber Fry.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know,
And yep.
you know,
Yep.
the recorded, the recorded phone calls,
You're right. Him
where
telling her that
yeah,
she was already gone, and that
right,
was way before she was even gone.
right, that his
Yep.
wife had passed away, blah blah blah. So Amber kind of sealed the deal for me when it came to Scott. Because I believe the woman. I can't help it. I do. I believe her. There would be no reason to bring that kind of negative attention upon yourself, and if you weren't telling the truth, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But like I said, when it comes to death row, or it comes to the death penalty, I'm so iffy because I'm one of those people that if like Cameron, I can't get over the fact that Texas killed him and then said, "Oopsie, it, that's not good enough."
Right. It's
And
not.
now with new DNA, I mean, take the David Cam case. That's right here in my backyard, my hometown. I grew up with. I went to high school with Kim, his wife. He sat in prison for 13 years while they sat on evidence that Charles Bonet had left behind a sweatshirt with his name and shit on it. And Cam sat in prison for 13 years. And he was one of the lucky ones because wrongfully convicted and only sitting in there for 13 years. I mean, look at Ryan. What's his name? His dad went so hard for him. What's his name? Ryan, or maybe his last name's Ryan.
I think his last name's Ryan, but I can't remember his first. I want to say his last name's Ryan. Truth, but I could be wrong.
But you know the kid that his dad
Yeah.
went so hard for.
Yeah.
He got convicted basically on another kid's testimony. Nothing else. No DNA evidence. No proof that Ryan Ferguson, no proof at all that he was there at the crime scene. Nothing. He got convicted based on another person's testimony. So if I'm going to prison and I don't like you, Jenna, all I have to say is Jenna was with me. Jenna did this. Jenna did that. And you end up in excuse my language, you end up in freaking prison over that. Our judicial system needs a total overhaul.
I agree with that.
We have such technology nowadays that no innocent person should be sent to prison at this point. We have touch DNA. We have mitochondrial DNA. It just shouldn't be happening.
No, it shouldn't. And with the cameras the way they are nowadays and the tracking of cell phones the way they are today, it really shouldn't. The errors shouldn't be happening. And innocent people should not be being sent to prison. I will agree with you. Or to death row for that matter. I agree with you there.
And I'll say it, and I've said it before. I've said it my whole life. I'd rather see 10 guilty people walk free than one innocent one sit behind bars. Now, I'm sorry if that's a messed up way of looking at things, but I have a real problem with, and I follow death row inmates. I follow the ones that are getting released after 40 something years. They can't get their lives back.
No.
That's like the West Memphis 3.
That was a big one. They took their whole childhood. Yeah, they took their whole childhood away.
They took an Alford plea because the state wasn't willing to admit they were wrong. And those guys, Damian Ellis knew he was going to be killed. Mm-hmm. He was going to be killed.
Right, because he was the only one that got the death penalty. The rest got life, but he got the death penalty, and he knew it. Yes, he did. Because there's a documentary about that, too.
Yeah, it's still on their record. If you go and look up the men, they still have 3 murder cases on their record because they took the Alford plea. I don't like the Alford plea. I don't like it. It's like saying, I'm not guilty, but you have enough evidence to convict me. Right. I don't like that. I don't like that plea. I don't like that at all.
No, totally especially with their case, they didn't even have enough evidence to convict them. That's how I feel. I don't think there was even enough evidence to convict them, but yet they got convicted. And not only that, they had to take the Alford plea to be able to get out, because if they didn't, he was going to die. He was going to get the death, you know what I mean? And they were going to spend the rest of their lives in prison if they didn't.
So I don't, Jesse Misskelley didn't want to take the plea. Okay. Well, I think it's been proven that, no offense to Jesse Misskelley, but I think it's been proven pretty substantially that Jesse's, mentally not capable of making a decision like that. I don't blame him for taking the plea. If it comes down to getting out for something I didn't do, but, and people will argue this, but I can show you the letter where Darlie Routier it's a letter between her and her attorney. And her attorney says, I've never had an offer like this in all the years that I've represented death row inmates, which tells me, I take from that letter that she was made an offer to admit her guilt, Because at the time that Darlie Routier was convicted, Texas didn't have life without. They didn't have
Right.
that option. It was either life with the option of parole or it was death, which means at the time of her crime, if she would have taken the plea, now the non-supporters will tell you that wasn't a plea, that it wasn't a plea deal, but of course it was offered. If she would have taken that, if she would have admitted to killing her boys, Darlie Routier would be free right now because she would get time served. But she won't admit it. She won't do it. She said she would rather die behind bars than admit to killing her kids. I'm totally with her on that, you know. But like I said, I didn't want
agree.
to take over your panel.
No, you
I
didn't.
just
No,
think,
you don't feel like you took over my panel. I wanted you to come up because it is something, everybody feels differently about the death penalty. Everybody feels differently, some believe in it, some don't. I'm glad you came up and gave your perspective and the way you feel about it. So no, you didn't take over my stream at all.
Denise says use the toaster. I'm not even supposed to smoke in the house, so I got to light it off the stove and run outside.
And run.
Yeah. Got all the smellies going right now because my brother can smell smoke from a mile away. But yeah, like I said, I'm not anti-death penalty. I'm really not. But you are going to have to prove to me 110% that this crime was committed by this person. There can't be no, hey, did you forget my lighter? All right, good, because I'm like lighting them off the stove and then running outside real quick so Mike don't catch me. I feel like I'm 12. I feel like I'm 12 again, John. All right. That was my neighbor, but because I asked him, please get me a lighter when you go out. But like I said, I am very passionate about the death penalty, and only because I used to be pro death penalty until I realized the number of people that are being freed from prison due to the fact that DNA is now here. Back in the 70s and 80s, we didn't. The only test for with DNA was silly stuff like male, female, something like that. It's just like I said, I'm just really so up in the air about the death. When I say up in the air, yeah, Ryan Ferguson.
Yes, Ryan Ferguson. Yes, that's who we were. She's asking, wasn't it false memory too that he was convicted on? They're wondering if he's talking about the Ryan Ferguson case by the
Yes,
comment.
and the other kid that got locked up with Ryan has since taken back his statement.
Yes, he
And
has.
I do believe Ryan has fought to free him. I don't know. I have to read up on it to see if the other kid got out, but I'm not that up to date. I never followed that case real close. The only reason I did know of it because it was such a big case as far as publicity goes and all that.
Right.
Kind of like Peterson's.
You're right. You were right.
Peterson,
Just
I'm not
like
worried
Scott.
about.
I'm not worried about Scott Peterson either. I'm shocked that it got overturned. I really am. I think that they got it right the first time, but they said that he didn't get a fair jury. So, does he deserve that right? I think he does. Even if
I do
he is
too.
guilty, I think he deserves that right. And if they didn't do it right, then do it right this time. So there isn't. That's the one thing. That's what you're trying to say, Tracy. Is that you can't mess up when you have somebody's that you got a family going through. Like they want to hear this case all over again. This case happened in 2002. They don't want to hear this all over again. They're trying to heal as a family. So not only are you hurting the family by getting it wrong, you're also hurting the person that may or may not be guilty. That's why it's so important to get it right. Marsha, absolutely, you can have a link.
Something else that's weird. Don't you think it's weird the name Peterson? You got Scott, you got Drew, you got that dude from the staircase. All named Peterson. It's like, man, I'm glad my name's not Peterson in some of the moods I get into.
Right.
like I said,
think
when it comes to the death penalty, if you can't prove to me, not beyond a reasonable doubt, but you've got
I
to
put
prove
one
to
in
me
there, Ma.
110%, you know, because taking 40 years of somebody's life and then turning them out with $50 and a bus ticket and saying good luck. Now, a lot of states do have compensation for false imprisonment or wrongful conviction. I don't think Indiana is one of them. In Texas, you can get up to $80,000 a year for every year you're
Oh,
convicted.
Marsha, we got some slack going from you.
I,
Oh, there it goes.
I forgot to mute.
Hello, Marsha. Welcome.
I'm
Hey,
dying to
Marcia.
talk about this. Hey, Tracy, I'm dying to talk about this. I followed every second of this trial, this case, this trial, because I had just had surgery when this happened, when she went missing.
Yes.
And I had nothing to do, right? So I sat in there and I watched the search for her. I knew about the robbery across the street that the defense tried to say was tied in. Remember that? Yeah. People who said that she was walking the dog in the park. How did the dog get back to the house?
Yeah.
There was that. And then, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I even watched the reenactment in the boat where they
Yes.
took out
That's what I was
the.
going to say. Yeah, I was going to add up when I talked about the jury. Yeah. But and there were so many things. I mean, I believe he did it. I'm 1,000% convinced he did it. I am. But I would not have been able to vote for the death penalty.
I couldn't
in
either.
his. Uh-uh.
I couldn't either, Marcia.
One, you don't have DNA, and in my mind nowadays, you almost have to have it.
Yeah.
Too many people are getting out of death row innocent, or So, but here's the thing: this jury, which goes back to the vote, like you were saying, I don't know if y'all sat on the jury, but I haven't. I sat on the death penalty jury.
I have never sat on a jury.
I want to do
never.
that so bad.
I know. I've always wanted to do that too. So you did?
Sent to me. I got jury duty sent to me while I'm in Indiana. I'm supposed to go to Florida and do it, and I was like, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm in Indiana." And the lady said, "Okay, we'll postpone it till November." Okay, get back. But my luck, it's going to be something stupid. I mean, I'm not going to get nothing good.
Right.
When I was on, 3 guys killed and raped a girl, hid her under some construction debris.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Yeah. And here's the thing. This is what changed me on the death penalty. This one.
Okay, I don't mean good. Just so y'all know, I don't mean good because.
Oh God.
Right.
Nowadays we have to.
I'll get it.
I know. We always have to watch what we say nowadays on here. It's crazy.
I mean, an interesting case. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. These 3 guys. Apparently, there were things they did not tell us as a jury. Okay. And as it turned out, they didn't have DNA then. I'm that old. Okay. But one of them had an alibi that was confirmed by people who didn't know him. They did not tell us that. So these 3 were convicted, and we gave them the death penalty. And they go to prison. They go to death row here in North Carolina. And as it turns out, one of them wasn't even in the state.
Wow.
Wow. Marja said, I sat on the first Chicago electric chair case for 9 weeks. I was terrified the entire time.
Talking about, yes.
But look at what happens to a jury that convicts something like the death penalty, and then come to find out they either weren't given all the information,
right.
or, whatever. And that happens in courtrooms all the time.
Yeah.
There is prosecutora, whatever. The prosecutor. Yeah. The prosecutor is a snake. Okay. The state is a snake, and they don't turn over all the information to the defense. Now, that is a Brady violation, but
they get away with it sometimes.
They get away with it.
They get away with it all the time.
They say they have explanations, etc. Excuses. The thing, but you also have defense teams that dirty the victim. The victim. They dirty the prosecutor. So it can go both ways, and that's when you hope you have a decent judge. Look at Juan Martinez. Okay.
Yep.
I would have had his babies. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
after Jodi Arias. There were rumors of what was going on, with what's her
Hey,
name?
Doodle.
With Casey Anthony and Casey Anthony, they say that's how she paid for her her lawyers by having sex with him and stuff. Yeah, they come up with all kinds of stuff.
That wasn't true. Bankruptcy.
No,
No, it
no.
wasn't true, but
let me tell you
that's what they
something.
come up with.
It was Casey Anthony that put him on the spotlight. I mean, that was his first.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know, and the only reason they hired him is because that's all they could afford.
Non-biased. I hated him until he did Aaron Hernandez's second trial, right? Because I watched the first one and I watched the second one. And I was not convinced of the second one, except a couple things were said where they talked about how he had to sit up in the seat. But if I'd been on the jury, I don't know that I could have convicted him based on what.
Me neither.
Me either.
Right.
I watched both of those too, and I don't think I could have either.
I think that guy was a tormented soul. I really do. I mean,
look, convicted, they never knew what CTE was.
Right.
And then when they got to his brain, he had the worst brain that's ever been seen.
Yeah.
He also did a lot of drugs.
Yeah. They said it was the worst brain that they ever seen with that type of case, and for his age.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he also was a frequent user of PCP because the National Football League didn't test for it.
Right.
Yep. Like I said, there's so many cases out there.
There is so many cases that we could, talk about that. But it's hard, for the jury. It's hard for, the families, everything. I just feel, I don't think they got it wrong with Scott. Do I think he probably is going to get life instead of the death penalty this time? I do.
Probably.
I really believe he's probably going to get life
Here's
instead.
The interesting thing. This is what we've got coming, girls. This is what we've got coming. They did not overturn the conviction, as you said, right? They did the death penalty. And the Supreme Court of California said he has to have another trial on the death penalty. They can ask for it again,
Yeah.
They can go back. But guess what that means? A whole new jury. And this new jury has never heard the evidence that the first jury had already heard.
Correct.
You've got another mini trial.
Well, and yes, and that goes back to Casey Anthony. Let me tell you something. The only reason they didn't get any kind of conviction is because they went too hard. They went for the death penalty when they couldn't make all the pieces fit together. Ashton should be ashamed of himself.
Yes.
Ashton should be ashamed of himself.
Second-degree murder in there. They overcharged it. They would have had her then.
Yeah, but they didn't give the jury any options.
No.
It was death or nothing. And there just wasn't enough to prove that she maliciously, don't get me wrong, I firmly believe she was drugging her kid to, I don't believe she purposely killed her. In my opinion.
I think she accidentally gave her too much. That's my opinion.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many pictures of a loving Kaylee and Casey. You could see the how much they both adored each other.
Right.
I think she was using drugs, whether it be Xanax and I never did really fall for the whole chloroform thing. The man who tried to get chloroform caught in a can. I just didn't fall for that.
Did you hear what happened? Did you hear what happened I think it's in the last 6 months? It has come out that there was another computer in the home. And there were searches on how to make chloroform, how to kill a child.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah. Really? I didn't know they found another computer.
You want to talk about? Yeah, I'll look that up too. The thing is, they can't pin it to anybody, and even if they could, guess what? They can't do it to her because of double jeopardy.
Right. But see, she would be sitting in prison right now had they offered that jury something else. And that prosecution, yeah. But when you go for the death penalty, you have to prove that it was with malicious intent. And I think it has to be during a commitment of another felony.
Well, yeah, if they get you for felony murder, is if somebody dies while you're committing child abuse or robbery or burglary or whatever, that's felony murder. But like the guy I don't know if you remember the guy in Atlanta who shot his wife in the back. Remember, and he claimed he was asleep. It was an accident.
Yep.
Ted MacGyver. Everybody thought, oh, he's going to get off on this. They had him with second-degree murder, and they had him with felony murder and the gun and all those charges, right? Nobody really expected him to be convicted. I thought he was guilty as hell, because who drives around in a car in the back seat with his finger on a trigger, right?
Right.
But at any rate, they did not convict him of the second-degree murder, but they convicted him of the felony murder because they convicted him of the gun charges.
Right.
And that allowed him to convict him of felony. Yeah.
Well, there was
so
something
more
that
states
happened. There was something that happened the other day, and I'm not sure if it was out of the Atlanta area or what, but I'm going to check into it. And, the world is in turmoil right now. It's in racial turmoil. It's in, it's just in turmoil right now.
It is.
But a 5-year-old was riding his bike, and obviously, you know what I'm talking about? Obviously, maybe the kid rode up. Yeah. Where was it?
Tex McGiver? Is that? Oh, great trial. Okay, never mind. Leah wants me to tell you, Tracy, that you should do the Darlie Routier case because you're so passionate about it on your channel one time.
Okay, but if it does, be prepared. It's going to be an all-out battle between me and Brian. But
I disagree.
But okay, so this little 5-year-old is riding his bike, okay? And I don't know if he rode up in the man's yard or whatever. He comes out with the pistol, point blank, holds the pistol to this kid's head and kills him. Now, that's a case that I want to follow. And the reason I want to follow it is because of the racial tones behind it. Because we're not hearing a lot about it.
Well, it's here in North Carolina, and they're talking about it. It's been a big
deal. But it's going to stay in that town. It's kind of like the case that I did on the girlfriend and the boyfriend, Christopher Mayhew. Oh, I forgot their names. And Shannon.
Oh, Shannon Christensen
and Christopher. Yeah, it was not a public. It didn't really go like a Scott Peterson's case or an Anthony. It stayed in that town. That's where it stayed popular, is in that town. So I'm sure this is going to be another case that you're talking about right now, that it's not going to make national news, and you're going to have to.
Here's my point on the death penalty. People witnessed this. People saw this happen. There is no doubt this man shot this 5-year-old in the head. That's where you give the death penalty.
Yeah, and he's going to get. North Carolina, of course, loves the death penalty until probably about the last 10 years, and very few cases are getting it. I watched a case, Nathan Holman, I think, or Holman Nathan, here in North Carolina. He was separated from his wife. He went to her house. He'd been beating his son, so she left him. And he went to her parents' house. He killed the parents, mom, dad. He shot, and he did all this in front of his kids. He shot the wife, killed her.
Yes, Remy.
Mm-hmm.
He was up for the death penalty, and in my opinion, if anybody deserved it, it was him. He did not get it. So North Carolina has kind of gone whissy on it. But I believe that guy is going to get that for shooting that boy.
Yeah, as he should. Because, like I said, we were talking about the death penalty, and unless you can prove to me 110% that the person that committed the crime actually committed that crime, I do not believe in beyond a reasonable doubt when it comes to death. It's okay for a conviction. I understand that's the way our system is. I also understand that our system is made up of human beings and there's going to be mistakes made. I get that. But you can't make mistakes when it comes to other people's lives. That's not acceptable.
I agree with that. I agree with that. You should have it like down pat where, like you said, DNA, all that. Like Marsha was saying when she came in here, they didn't have DNA, nothing, and people get death. I don't think you should be able to, not with the way with technology the way that it is today, and the DNA where it is today. There's no reason, That's just my opinion on it.
And I know right now the country is in financial straits because of the epidemic and all that. I get it. But, when we're spending billions of dollars to see if a praying mantis can run on a treadmill,
Right.
and I'm just using that as an example of some of the stupid shit we
not talking
spend billions of dollars in this country.
You're not talking bad about praying mantises.
Yeah. But yeah, God love the praying mantis. I love a bug that prays. But the stupid shit we spend money on in this country, once we get through this epidemic, and God knows when that'll be, but I pray every day that we're going to see the light of this pretty soon. But and please don't try to discourage me, because that's just my prayers. But
there you go.
Everybody that was convicted on murder or felony murder or anything, in my opinion, before DNA testing was available, every single one of them should be allowed to have their cases looked into. That's my opinion.
I could not agree more.
I couldn't either. I couldn't agree more.
And what's scary is now I'm making a hypothetical case, okay, but you'll relate to it. Say you've got a man who killed 2 women, okay? And it was in 1971.
Sorry, Remy.
Story up. And they didn't know to collect DNA. They had blood evidence because, they're going to get blood, but they don't save that evidence once that guy's gone to jail. So he comes up, he says, I was never there, blah, 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 test. There's nothing to test. Nothing to test.
Right.
And that's what's scary to me. What's also scary to me, and I'm not talking bad about Texas, because God knows there's a lot of people I love in Texas.
Texas is very proud of the fact that they're pro. They're pro. I mean, they don't hide.
They don't shut. No, they don't.
They're
very proud of that.
Well, they have a law. Yeah, they are. They have a law that if even new evidence, like say my 1971 case, okay, say if the judge had, if the lawyers had not made a motion in court to have that done within a certain time frame, it never gets done.
What do you think about the Day Belvallo case? Mag, I haven't looked a lot into that case, but in my opinion, because those kids were found on that property, they got a lot to overcome.
Yeah.
They got
I agree. I haven't watched that. I haven't watched much of that case either. And for them to be found on that property, that's going to be the hardest thing for them to overcome, is how they got buried in their backyard, but they didn't even know they were missing.
They didn't know they were missing, right? And they got about gunshots and fires.
Mm-hmm.
And my only thing is, what I wanted to know, I would have loved to ask each of them on 12:01 on the 24th of July. Okay, and so you killed children for nothing,
right? Yep.
It's not zombies, and they wouldn't have been.
Yeah, that's that's some kind of cult crazy,
yes.
Bullshit. And like I said, those two have got a lot to overcome, and I'm pretty interested in the Crystal Rogers case right now.
It's so interested, Tracy.
And it's not far from my hometown. They finally are doing things that I felt like they should have been doing years ago.
Can we say up?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, but because I feel like his brother was a cop, that all of this, and I believe it's all connected. I believe Ellison, the cop that stopped to move the tree out of the road and was sniped. I believe that Tommy Ballard, Crystal's dad, who had put his
daughter that morning.
Yep, he was sniped while out hunting. I believe they're all connected.
I do too.
Maybe if they find Crystal, or they confirm that those are Crystal's remains.
Right.
Maybe they can put it all together, but they might have screwed it up so bad already that there's just no putting it together.
I think that even if they can't put it together, people
go.
Will. And if they can't get it for Crystal, I think that the FBI will get them for something.
I hope.
Involved in that case. While we were talking, I looked up this Casey Anthony. About what I was telling you about.
The computer.
And it's this one article I'm looking at is from 2012, so it was current to then. Okay, when this happened, and it said that Orlando's WKMG reported the police overlooked a key piece of evidence. They talked about that the searches were for chloroform, chest trauma, internal bleeding, how to make chloroform, and neck breaking. But the Google that
Really?
that's what
Wow.
they searched for. That somebody had searched for foolproof suffocation. An hour
Wow.
after George left for work, while Casey could have still been there, and her mother was at work.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If there was a Brady violation, and I'm not saying there was, but if there was a Brady violation at that point, could Casey be retried for something lesser than
Nope.
first-degree murder?
Nope.
See, I didn't know.
I was wondering that too. In the Daybell case, I think the brother, I'm reading Mandy's comment, I think the brother is involved in some way too. I don't think it was just the wife and the stepdad. I think the brother is definitely involved too. Because Mandy said that she thinks, I believe the brother Alex killed her son and Chad killed her daughter. But I don't know.
Chad's wife.
The
Chad's
Daybell?
Yeah, the Daybell, the brother.
Yeah, and Chad's wife. There's thought that he was killed.
Yeah, when you got a lot of people being killed around a crime, it's time to take a real hard look at the people are dying around.
Exactly.
But anyhow, somebody had searched neck break, snap.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I haven't looked into that case in forever. I haven't even noticed that they found a second computer.
Thanks, Marsha, for another freaking rabbit hole I'll go down.
But Casey's mom stated she did
talk about the second computer. It just talks about the
Yes, so they found a second computer, Mandy. Yes, she's stating on that first computer she did do the research.
And you know what? I did check into that, and she's right. She was looking at her dogs were getting sick. She was looking at palmetto plants, and they do put off a form of chloroform, not actually chloroform, but chlorophyll.
You're right.
If you Google chlorophyll, at some point it's going to take you to chloroform. Hold on.
Correct.
Come on, Lolly. Come on.
But basically what Marsha's saying is that they have found a second computer in the home that they didn't know of. And now this second computer has neck breaking, suffocation, and what was the other one, Marsha? Chloroform searches.
Wow. See, I didn't know that. Now I'm going to have... Ooh.
The whole thing is the timing was off. It's way after the trial. There's nothing you can do.
Nope. And see, that's the problem. Ugh, that's frustrating.
I'm going to tell you, there's another case in Florida, and I don't know if I know we're talking about these different cases. We got to do this more often.
I know we do. This is way better than drama. Let me tell you, everybody, if everybody could hit the thumbs for this, I would appreciate it.
Hit your thumbs up. Show Jenna some love, man. I'm sorry I had my rant this morning, but I would much rather be doing this also than ranting at somebody, which I don't usually do that anyways, but I did. It's over. I can't take it back. But yeah, we're definitely going to have to plan these panels. I know we're jumping from case to case to case, but this started with Jenna talking about the death penalty. And I'm very passionate. I'm very passionate about the death penalty. So,
and that's why Marsha came up, is because we were talking about the death penalty. She's like, I've been wanting to talk about this. Yes, we were talking about, but this is a good conversation. I enjoy true crime, so I can sit here all day. It's something I enjoy. So what case were you talking about in Florida, Marsha?
It was talking about weird evidence, and how weird evidence comes into a jury. Mm-hmm. And his name is Justin Barber, I think it is. Yeah, Justin Barber. And him and his wife were supposedly walking down, the beach at night, way out in the middle of nowhere where there was, oh, I'm sorry, here goes my dolly.
Oh, we all have dogs, don't worry.
Yeah, I've got
to mute all the time.
I got a 190-pound one and a 20-pound one looking at me because they both went out and pottied, so they get a treat. Carry on.
Poppy and Dolly, their daddy just pulled in.
Yeah, I had to mute because my husband pulled in too, and my dogs do the same thing. They get so excited when my husband comes home.
Guys, my battery's getting low, so I'm gonna go back into the chat, but I'm gonna listen to you guys. This has been great. I hope we can plan maybe some of these panels.
Yes.
And maybe focus on one case at a time instead of jumping around like we did today.
Right.
Got Peterson tomorrow.
We could do that. I mean, I'll have to brush up on it because, like I said, I watched the reenactment of the boat when they took the boat out and weighted down that dummy. And I hate to use that word in such a case like that, but it was a dummy. Yeah. And they did it approximately at her weight, while carrying Connor. And
then there was a big debate whether or not let that video in. The other thing, this is how I got on the death penalty jury. Talking about that, the jurors were told you're always told you're not to experiment, right? You cannot experiment, just like they tell you can't drive by, you can't read all that.
Yeah, you can't talk about it. Yeah.
This jury, they had the boat in the jury room during deliberations, and people got in and out of that boat.
Really?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy. That shouldn't have been able to happen.
You just give me a time. We'll talk about it. I think.
Yes, definitely. We definitely will talk about it. I love doing this type of stuff.
I'm doing some homework on a case that I don't feel like this little girl got justice at all. And Tawanda, this case is very close to Tawanda's heart. But I am going to try to cover the Jessica Chambers case because I've never seen such a clown show, such a circus as when that jury came back the first time. And they voted one way, and then the guy stands up and says, I didn't vote that way. And then the judge, that should have been a mistrial right there. And then the judge sends them back into the jury room. They still don't understand unanimous. They come back out. It's still a circus. And then he finally declares a mistrial.
I'll be right.
I've never seen anything like that. So I'm going to try to cover that case. But I'm trying to
talk about that.
Definitely. British Chippy, I've never been on a jury. I think Tracy's never been on a jury, but Marsha was on a death penalty jury.
Mar was on one.
And Mar was on one. But no, I've never have.
Jenna, I'm going to jump down only because my battery,
thank you.
I'll be in chat. All right.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you for coming up, Tracy. I'll put the link in the chat just in case anybody else wants to come up as well. I know Marsha's dealing with her dog. That's why she's on mute. Hey, hang in with Mr. J. Welcome. But yeah. I didn't know that about the Scott Peterson with the jury being able to have the boat inside the jury room and to have them being able to climb in and out of that boat. I'm wondering if that part that I read is why it was stated that way, because it ended. Remember how I said that there wasn't enough evidence to prove whether the boat could capsize with him throwing them over his boat, and that was part of his plea, the reason why he felt like he should get a different sorry, I'm looking at something. I can't do two things at once.
Okay.
Oh, are you back?
Yeah, the other thing that happened in that jury, there's a lot of weird things, but they had a foreman, okay? And when the trial finished, I'm sorry, I'm out of breath from walking so fast.
Take your time. Take your time, Marsha.
I have to. I'm sorry.
Yes, no, not a problem. Take your time, please. There is no rush.
I didn't know you were needing to get off. But the foreman, the first foreman, right when the trial finished.
Yes.
That to deliberate. Apparently, there's different stories. Was trying to control the deliberations, And he's one of those, and I'm not talking bad about TNT, but had a 5-star notebook, you had bunches of notes and stuff. and I think about that guy every time TNT said that.
Right.
But at any rate, he kept trying to control the jury. And so the juror starts sending notes out to the judge saying that he would not deliberate because he just kept telling them what he thought. And his attorney was an attorney in the long run, but they actually removed him from the jury for refusing to deliberate and appointed another foreman. They took an alternate. Then they voted on another foreman. And then there was a guy who said hey to somebody, and I may be wrong on this fact, but he said hey.
I think it was in a restaurant or something. Yeah, it was. You're not wrong. I think it was in like they were either passing or in a restaurant. All he said was hey, but it was part of they were part of the case, and he got
her badge on. And,
yep.
And then there was another one who said that even he wouldn't. I can't remember why he left. He was an older man. I'll find out. Anyway, but there was a woman on that jury, and her nickname on the law and crime at that time, we were called court chatters. And everywhere that followed this trial called her Strawberry Shortcake because she had pink hair. And she was confident. And once they got this jury, quote unquote, situated,
yes,
it was like hours before they convicted it.
Wow.
And then they had a press conference after. It's very telling. Strawberry Shortcake was a very strong personality.
Oh, I think she did interviews, right?
Yes, she did.
Yes. Yep. I remember that. She did do interviews. She did have a very strong personality. She did.
So people often accused not the state or not the judge, but just the jury of finagling to get the jury that they wanted, to get the vote that they wanted to convict him.
Right. And that's what they're trying to say. And this is why the judge has ruled in his favor, is because of the jury, because they felt like there was people that got let go because they didn't believe in the death penalty, but they would follow the rules, the laws. And that's what they're saying in the news is the reason why he's getting this new, whether he's going to get life or if he's going to get death row again. But they haven't said whether they're going to give him death row again yet either. No, they haven't said. Nope. Do you think they will?
No, I doubt it.
I don't think they will either. I think they're going to be okay with just having him have life. Now, that was the question I asked. He can only get death row or life, correct? You can't get death row, life, or life with parole, right?
He'll probably get life without parole.
Right. But is there that chance that he could get that? Or is that not even going to be? I don't even think that can be on the table, correct?
Yeah, it can. The judge said that when I was reading. Let me double check before I say what I'm getting ready to say.
Yeah, because I thought I was looking to see, and I couldn't find it when I was reading. But everybody reads different news articles, and we all know every news article gives pretty much the same, but they spin it just a little. And I was curious, could he get life with the possibility of parole? And I could not find it.
I'm reading here.
Let's see while you're looking, I'll see what the chat has to say. I've always wanted to be on a jury. I think it would be, it's obviously sad when you're on a jury because you're, it's somebody's life in your hands, so to speak, and you want to do justice for the loved ones. But I always wanted to be on a jury.
Let me look it up and see, because that article says something, but I don't want to be dependent on one article.
I agree.
Let's see.
None of my family have been called up. I have never. My mom has. My mom's done a jury, but it wasn't a death penalty. It was just a regular. just being a jury. And I think it wasn't anything big, I don't think anybody in my family has ever done a big case.
My dad, they kept calling him for federal trials. He kept going to federal trials.
Really?
Yeah, I guess once you get on their list, they want you.
Wow. I just, like, when school started, that it started and the head said to me, oh, another one. Yeah, because like I said, it's just going to be interesting. I don't think they're going to say the death penalty again. I really don't. I don't think there's enough evidence, and I don't think they're going to put it on the table. But they could, but I don't think they will. I'm just curious if it being overturned, will he have that choice of where the jury can give him parole? If he gets parole, that means the family, Sharon and Brent, would have to show up for every parole hearing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. That's what I was saying earlier. This affects everybody. This happened in 2002. I think he was convicted in 2005. This family has been trying to heal. And now because of this, now they have to not relive the whole trial, but still, they can't even heal. And that's the tough part.
They can seek the death penalty if they choose.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have the death penalty, life without parole, or life, 25 to life.
Oh, okay. 25 to life. See, that's the one I was wondering about. I knew that they could do the death penalty, but they hadn't said whether they were going to. And I knew that they could do life without parole, but I didn't know about the life with parole. And that's the one I was curious of, because I couldn't imagine them giving him parole, in my opinion.
No.
It's just my opinion. I think do I think he should be on death row? I don't. But do I think he should have life? I do.
I do too. I agree. And I think he should have life without parole. Yeah. Another interesting thing in this case, Mark Garagos is still saying that they're halfway to get him out of jail. And there are so many things. Okay, so now the jury thing has been resolved, right? Mm-hmm. There's another thing in here. Amber Fry, his girlfriend.
Yes.
Okay. She did not know he was married. She widowed.
Right, because she told her she was missing way before she was even missing. If you remember, it was his first Christmas without her and all that. And that was Mm-hmm.
And so then when her friend and they put it together, who he was.
Right.
Like a dummy. Did he not think she was anyway? Okay.
Right.
Men. But so she started taking the phone calls, right?
Correct.
When the police had the warrants and, the wiretap warrants, they had all that. They had all the legal things. But what Garagos was arguing, and many were arguing, was that she then became an agent of the police. In other words, she was just like a policeman.
Instead of being a witness, they're saying now because she recorded the phone calls, now she was an agent
of the police. She might as well have been a police officer. So, or law enforcement. So, but that was heard at the time and was not upheld, so that she was allowed. That's why she was allowed to testify. Now, this is what often people think. Some people think that they don't really know all the evidence. If she had not testified, many people think that they would not have succeeded in dirtying up Scott Peterson and thereby convicting him.
Mm-hmm. That one's a tough one for me. Yeah. That one's a tough one for me because I can see where they're coming from in that aspect. She was a big key witness in this case. It definitely made him look more guilty, even though they say, having an affair doesn't mean you're a killer. Right. But I mean, if we go back to Chris Watts and we go to Scott Peterson, Drew Peterson. Drew, exactly. All of it. it does make you look guilty when you are having an affair because, I don't know. That's a tough one for me. If they would have, because they really didn't have anything on him.
They had the timing.
Right.
They had
him lying about he went to golf, but he really went to the boat. Nobody knew he owned the boat. Right. They had pictures of him making his own weights. Right. The weights for the boat.
Yeah, she didn't even know he had a boat.
No, she didn't. She had no idea he had a boat.
He was fishing where the body was found mysteriously.
Right. He was fishing there. And when they were doing surveillance on him, they were catching him being at the harbor, looking over the water many times.
And watching the searches.
Yes.
You want to know the crazy little thing that if I'd been on that jury that would have caused me to convict him? Was in front of the jury. This is a crazy little thing.
And then we can't forget he ran. He dyed his hair.
Yeah.
He took money. He had his brother's ID on him, not even his ID, to get across the border. But he didn't make it there.
I can't think of this reporter's name, but she's famous, blonde hair. It was ABC. She's a beautiful woman. Oh, yeah. She was interviewing him up for one of the morning shows, right?
Yeah.
And he was sitting there with his serious look, about how he just wants his wife back.
Yes.
And Connor. And the phone rang. And it rang. And he kept talking, and it rang. And she said, "Don't you want to get that?" He said, "No, it'll be okay."
Yes.
Wasn't even expecting.
Yeah, that was the other thing that they were saying. Like he was ignoring phone calls where if she was really missing, you would think you would answer every phone call that came in, and he wasn't. When he was at where they made the post for the missing, where they had a station, he was definitely acting strange, but he didn't want to be on camera. He didn't want to interview. He was behind the scenes, but her family wasn't very suspicious of that because they said he was like that in general. He wasn't one to be in the spotlight. He liked being behind the scenes. So that didn't really worry them until the girlfriend came out, and then all the pieces came together because they were defending him until she came out.
That's right.
Over and over. Yeah, they defended him like no other until she came out, and then once she came out, that was it. The family knew he did it.
Yeah, that morning with that phone call on that morning show, and
Diane Sawyer.
Thank you, whoever.
It was Mag. Thank you, Mag.
That morning I said he did it. It was the same to me as Susan Smith.
Yes.
Susan Smith, because that's not far from where I live. Susan Smith, she said that the black man had ran into her car, and kidnapped her.
Right. Yep. And her cries were so fake. Sorry. She was fake crying. Yes. To me, she looked like she was.
She said she was at a red light. Yes.
Yep.
No light there.
There was no light there? I never looked into that, but I do remember her saying she was at a red light and the black man came in, took the car and threw her out of the car and took off.
Right.
And yeah.
No red light there. It might have been a flash one, but no red light to stop at.
Hanging with Mr. J just said 2 days ago he heard that Bill Cosby is getting a chance for an appeal.
Wouldn't shock me hanging with Mr.
J. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me either.
I mean, I'm happy with his conviction, but it wouldn't shock me.
No. He has a house. It's a house. What is it? Probably 45 minutes from me. He has a house up here, and this is where he hid during the trials and stuff. He was coming up here and hiding, like when he was really into the spotlights and stuff. That's where he was coming, because we live in a very small town, and it's a very small, quiet town, and that's where he would come, him and his wife, and that's where they would stay in their home up here.
Here was my thing about Bill Cosby. I love doing this. I could do this on this all day.
I know.
Here was my thing with Bill Cosby. It's kind of like what Tracy said about Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. When people keep being murdered and dying around you,
yeah,
looking. When women, girls keep being raped and drugged around you, it's time to start looking.
Yep, it is.
And I know there were cases they couldn't do, because of statute of limitations. I have a whole opinion on that. Um, but I think he did it. I think he did it.
I think he did it too. And I think the women, because a lot of people are saying, why did he wait? Why did they wait so long? I think it was out of fear. He was a very successful man. I think a lot of the women waited, and I'm sorry, I think it was out of fear. And I think once one person came out, that gave the strength for the other women to come out. I think a lot of women didn't want to be the first. They didn't know anybody else. They thought they were the only one. So fighting him was scary. But I think once one person was brave enough to come out, the rest of them did. But a lot of them are saying, oh, they're just coming out because, they want to be in the spotlight and stuff. I don't find any person, I don't think, would, go through all of that if it wasn't true, in my opinion.
In my opinion, too. And I think that you've got one of the first women that finally came out, the police shoot her off, and then she got court. Then they dropped the charges, didn't uphold the charges, and then she sued him civilly, and then that stayed in the courts forever and a day.
I remember. Sorry, I'm reading chat.
Stop. She just kept getting delayed.
Yeah.
And then finally, a district attorney took her up on it.
Yeah, and now somebody's bringing up how Bill Cosby's son was murdered. They're saying not far from where I used to live. That was so sad and senseless. I remember the day that went all over the news when Bill Cosby's son was murdered. They never caught his murder. I don't think they ever caught the person that murdered his son.
On the side of a road with a flat tire.
Yep.
Let me look see if they caught that real quick.
Yeah, I don't think they ever caught anybody. I don't know. Maybe they did, but I don't remember.
That was very sad.
It was. It was.
Yes, they convicted him in 1998 of murdering him.
Oh, did they?
Immigrant Mikhail Markasev.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember the day I watched it come up on the news and all that, but I never followed it after that. So I didn't know if they caught the person or not.
It was a robbery gone bad. He was shot in the head. The kid was 18 when he did it.
No kidding.
He confessed.
Oh, he confessed, huh?
Yes.
Well, that's good.
I hate to say I hadn't paid attention to that one, but.
Right. But I have to go because I have to cook dinner. It's dinner time. But I thank you, Marsha, for coming up. And we definitely have to do this again. Whether it's on your channel, my channel, the Truth's channel, this is way better than drama. We could definitely pick a case and we could all sit and talk about it and pick it apart. And instead of jumping all over the place, it looks like the chat really enjoyed it. I know your chat really enjoys when you do crime. I think it would be great to do that and get away from the drama. For sure.
I think it would be good to do Scott soon because he's in the news.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should.
Maybe tomorrow, let me know.
Yes, I definitely do. Is your email in your about section, Marsha, or no?
White Sharky at Hotmail, not Gmail.
Okay, at Hotmail. White Sharky at Hotmail. Okay, I'll write that down. I'll email you after I'm done cooking, and I'll talk to the Truth, and maybe we can come up with a time and stuff, and we can definitely talk about the Scott Peterson case more.
Great. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming up, Marsha.
I haven't been able to read the chat, but thank y'all.
That's how I am. When I'm on somebody else's panel, it's hard to read the chat and be on panel. But thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. I could talk about this all day too, Mar. Thank you guys all for coming in. Thank you guys for listening and being here and supporting. And thank you for everything you guys do, because without you guys, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And let me tell you, yesterday, I definitely struggled. I definitely struggled whether I wanted to continue to do this. And I talked to a couple of my friends last night, and they told me, don't stop, keep going. You're good at what you're doing. You're going to only get better. And I'm glad that this came up in the news, and I'm glad that I got messages that I did to go live, because you know what? I really enjoy doing this. I don't enjoy doing drama. I know it needs to get addressed sometimes, but it was definitely a struggle, but I'm glad that I picked myself up from yesterday, dusted myself off, and I'm here today. And I love that you guys are all here to support me. So I hope you guys all have a fabulous day. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. If you could hit the likes or the dislikes, either one, I would greatly appreciate it. Again, you all enjoy your day. Stay healthy, stay happy, and stay you. Talk to you all later.